Should teachers and nurses be given bigger pay rises? The independent pay review body has told ministers that teachers should be given a pay rise of close to 4%. NHS workers should get closer to 3%. That would put more pressure on the public finances, as the government reportedly only budgeted for 2.8%. It's claimed schools and hospitals would be told to find efficiency savings to help meet the costs. And Rachel Reeves is already facing the prospect of having to raise taxes this autumn. So, should the government do it anyway?
Well, I think the government is going to do it anyway, and the dispute will be over where the money comes from. So as far as I understand it, the teaching unions, I think quite rightly, fair play to them, have said, we want the pay rise as is instructed by the independent pay review body, but we don't want it to come out of the general school budget because that's going to punish the kids.
That's it.
So they want it to be extra money. I think it should be extra money.
Where is this, out of interest, this sort of extra money, where does that come? I mean, I don't know where you think that comes from. Is the defence budget or what?
Well, I think we should increase taxes. I mean, if we want to have a social security state a la the Europeans, then you need to tax like the Europeans. I don't think that any government has been honest about that for a long time.
Annunziata, we are not taxing highly enough.
Our tax receipts are already beginning to fall because we're overtaxed and people are moving abroad, companies are not expanding. The companies can't afford to. They can't afford to employ new people, then you don't get extra income taxes.
But that's employers' tax. We're talking here about income tax.
Absolutely. So both if you don't employ new people, you don't pay employers NIC, but also they don't pay any form of income tax. They're not in work.
Raise income tax on those who do work.
No, we should be not raising taxes, but unfortunately it's Rachel Reeves who has got us into this situation, and the report from the IMF last week laid it out clearly that she has caused the inflationary pressures that are meaning we've got the highest rate of inflation and forecast to continue to be the highest rate of inflation in the G7 because of the actions she's taken, increasing taxes, increasing the minimum wage, various pay deals that she has agreed to have all been inflationary. Inflation was falling and lower. She's gone in completely the wrong direction.
What do you think, Michael? You can't throw good money after bad. She's made so many mistakes. She needs to stop now.
Well, I mean, I think the idea that the education of our children is throwing good money after bad. I mean, I worked in schools for a year before I went into journalism. I was thinking of becoming a teacher, but the job is so goddamn hard. I thought, I'm not going to do this. They work such long hours. You have to be in front of a group of 30 kids. You know, that's a very challenging. It's much harder than talking to a camera. Talking to 30 kids who all sort of want your head on a spike.
I disagree with that.
No. And I think I think we should be paying them more. I think more important actually would be to give them a better work-life balance, which would be to say, let's have you only teaching kids for 4 hours of the day instead of every single hour of the day. We talk a lot about an ageing population. We talk a lot about an ageing population, sort of the number of children we have is shrinking. Surely that should mean we're giving them a gold-plated education, not that we're cutting corners when it comes to funding their schooling. OK, let's talk to Elaine in Manchester. Do you think the teachers and the nurses should get these higher than inflation pay rises?
No, I don't. I can't speak about nurses because I don't know enough about that. But I was a teacher, and I've taught for 50 years in a classroom. I've now retired because I'm 80, but my daughter has just done 17 years of teaching, and she's given it up, and no amount of money would have kept her in the job because the pressure is so ridiculous. The teachers are now not in charge like they used to be when I was younger, and there's so much pressure on them. And the week before she was due to finish last summer, I cried when she went home because she was so thin and gaunt, and I thought she's dying in front of my eyes. Oh. And I said to her, just go back, do this week with your children and enjoy it. And on the Tuesday of that last week, the Ofsted turned up, and she had to cope with that instead of enjoying a week with the children and just getting herself together.
But Elaine, if you have seen your daughter go through that, why do you not want her to get the pay rise?
Because it wouldn't have kept her. The school offered her £3,000 to stay, and she said
really?
no. And I said to her, no, don't do it. Just walk away because it's killing you.
All right.
And it's not just my daughter. It's lots of teachers. I taught all those years. These teachers now that come into the profession, they only teach for about 4 or 5 years and they're gone because it's just got ridiculous.
Okay, Elaine, thank you. Let's take some more calls. Thanks so much. It's interesting hearing that from somebody who was a teacher back when. Ian in Cornwall, hi.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Should they give these pay rises? They seem to have no money.
Well, absolutely. I'm a retired deputy head. I taught for 27 years in East London, and I loved it. It was a wonderful job, and I was very sad when I had to leave. I've talked to you about this before. The previous governments made teaching, nursing, other jobs as purely degree-based professions. So all these young people now have to go into universities, etc., and they have to get degrees, and then from the degrees they get a PGCE. So they've got 4 years at least student loan to pay back. So whether it's nurses or what, and I've just had quite a long time in hospital watching these young kids, and they are a lot of kids trying to get on with all their work and everything else. And all they have to do is to get them, once they sign up to the NHS and sign up to teaching, and that lady is quite right, a lot of teachers drop out after about 3 years because it is a tough job.
Yeah.
But if they sign up for 5 years, guaranteed to stay on, and at the end of that 5 years, the government then rescinds either their whole student loan or at least the interest. Both my daughter and my son pay enough monies that would actually count for another mortgage.
I know this student loan thing is horrific. I know, but do you think they should have a pay rise? Do you think they should do it via student loan forgiveness?
Well, they can either give away the students, but yeah, they need. If you want to keep them in, you've got to have a decent salary.
Okay, Ian.
You know.
Thanks so much. After the break, we are taking more of your calls. Do teachers and nurses deserve bigger pay rises? 020. Now we're going back to whether teachers and nurses should get bigger pay rises. David in Cumbria, do you think they should?
Hi, Jeremy. I think it would be much easier if you just raised the tax thresholds to 15,000, which would give everybody a £2,500 pay rise.
Well, they would need to sort of.
15.
They need. I mean, I'm going to use this horrible phrase. The government would need to pay for that because that would be money that would be missing. It would. One thing that would be brilliant about that would be it would take pensioners, a lot of pensioners, out of income tax, because that's another story that's coming down the track. But yeah, so
and it would help the cost of living as well, because people would then have disposable income. The government would get money back in VAT when people bought things.
Yep. Yeah. I'm trying to think what the downside. Do you agree with that?
It would definitely be a net loss of income to the government. So presumably they'd have to cut something somewhere. Some of the money would come back in VAT, but not all of it.
I know this is a crazy thing to say. If somebody's earning, let's say, £500,000 a year, they would benefit as well. And then there's going to be you're giving a tax cut to millionaires.
But you kind of can't have it every which way. And it does seem absolutely absurd that people that receive nothing other than the state pension are now being taxed.
I don't think they are.
It's so on the border.
No, if they get £100 a year or something private, it's that kind of...
It's so close.
Yeah, and that is making people very, very upset and angry, you're right. Thank you, David. Good shout. Julie in Somerset, what would you do about the nurses and the teachers? Because they do need more money.
Hi, I would give it to them. I am a retired registered general nurse. I also have a diploma in ophthalmic nursing, and I worked at a large London teaching hospital called the Royal Free for over 20 years. If anybody thinks we don't deserve a pay rise, I know very little about teaching, by the way, or education. If anybody knows very little about nurses and what we do and how we do it every day, come and do my job that I used to do for 2 days, and you'll soon find out that we need a pay rise and we deserve it.
Right. The argument against that, and it's very hard for me to say that, is we have a health system which has been set up to look after 40 million people, and it's now trying to look after 68 million. And it's basically going down in flames as we watch it.
I agree with you. It is going down in flames. The NHS needs two things: a large injection of cash, but also a jolly good sort out. It's top-heavy with bureaucracy. It needs a good sort-out. But the nurses on the floor, the staff nurses, the senior staff nurses and the sisters who do the bulk of the work, especially those of us who work in operating theatres and casualty and places like that, deserve more than 4%.
But if you had, let's say, an extra billion, would you not, Julie, put that into getting people who need a hip operation through in the next 6 months? So pay private hospitals to do it, the whole thing?
Yes, I would. I'm saying it needs a good sort-out.
Right.
The NHS needs a good sort-out. But don't penalise the nurses. And where do we get the money from?
Annunziata?
I'll tell you. You get the nurse money from taxing alcohol and smoking. Put more money on that.
Really?
The taxes taken on smoking are now falling at a faster rate than the number of smokers because it hit a tipping point, and I'm afraid it's now the black market. So that one isn't hugely going to work. I think it's unarguable that our nurses do an incredible job in often very, very difficult circumstances. But when we're essentially bankrupt and borrowing more than we spend on defence, our borrowing repayments being more than we spend on defence, the money just isn't always available.
Well, I don't know. Could we pay 70% tax, Michael? Would that be an option?
70% tax, that's a bit of a jump, isn't it?
Well,
I mean,
look, you're Novara Media. Why can't you just call for it?
I mean, you could do a 70% tax on the highest incomes. I mean, you would reach a point where people would start to leave. But I mean, you can go to 55% for the top rate and see how that goes, right? You don't have to do a sudden jump to 70%.
We're already losing a millionaire every 45 minutes, and for each one of them, you need hundreds of people.
I mean,
where are they going?
What I would like to see is
where are they going? Because other countries have got the same stuff going on.
No, all over the place. Monaco, Dubai. Yeah, no, they're
very unpatriotic, by the way, to go to Monaco because you don't want to pay for the NHS. But the other thing you can tax is
55%.
If you tax fixed assets, they can't move those. Right?
Yeah.
If you've got all these people with very expensive London property, they can't take that to Monaco because it's here.
Yeah, that's one house. That doesn't produce any money.
There's more than
they
one
just
house.
leave it empty.
All right.
But they take their income and their businesses.
I mean, the mansion tax I haven't heard about recently, but maybe it's going to come back. Thank you, Julie, so much. Anne is in Essex. Hello. Hello, Anne. Oh, I think she's there. I can hear a little... She's coming. Come on, Anne.
Oh, sorry.
I knew you were there. Were you watching your TV?
I was looking at you. Sorry.
That's all right. We got time.
I am a retired teacher. I'm in my 70s. And I think that they deserve another, the teachers anyway, they deserve another 1 percentage point. Not a lot. They should have paid the teachers before they paid the train drivers. This was bound to happen when you gave the train drivers all that money. But also to mitigate this, I have two daughters, one who was in the teaching profession and in the state, working for the state. They were between 40 and 50, and one who's worked in the private enterprise. And both at the same standard, they've both gone up in their careers, but their pensions are so vastly different. It's shocking. One of them's having to scramble around to try and fill a pension pot, and the other one isn't, and that has to be taken into account.
I need more details there. The pensions are different because the person in the private school hasn't got a pension. Is that right?
Not in a private school. She doesn't work in teaching, but in the private sector. She works just as hard and has gone up in her career. She had the same degree and whatnot, and that has to be a mitigating factor, I think. But I do think that 1% would help. And of course, they should have paid these people out before they gave the train.
And what sort of pension has your teaching daughter got?
I don't know. I can't. I wish you want me to say.
But I mean, that's a very good example of the hidden benefits of being a state employee, which is that you get this stonking pension.
You do get a better pension, I think.
But not better. Just not just better.
Yeah, a much better pension if you're in the public sector. I think they should get this pay rise. I think for the benefit of our kids and for the benefit of having teachers that stay there for more than 3 or 4 years, it is the work-life balance that they've really got to sort out. I think that should be the priority.
We should. The NHS is on its knees, but education is not on its knees in the same way.
It's not, and a lot of my family are also teachers, but I think we have been having this debate recently with the schools bill, that Bridget Phillipson wants more and more centralised control, and actually I think schools should have more and more control, that they know what suits their intake of pupils best, their local area, and devolve decisions.
And because in the States they are closing the Department of Education in Washington.